Will it encourage job creation? Will it promote the black economy? Will it do enough even to restore confidence? We've asked 3 business people from very different sectors to take a closer look. Martin Murphy, Managing Director of Hewlett Packard, Ted Laverty of OnlineTradesmen.ie and Colm Buckley of the People Group Recruitment. You're all very welcome.
Morning, George.
Martin Murphy, to you first. Were you impressed with the budget?
Well, George, I suppose at the top of my agenda and most business people's agenda, we're looking at 2 things. We're looking at competitiveness and we're looking at job creation. And for us, that adds up to the growth that we're going to need as we go forward in the economy. Now, over the last 2 years, I think we've had, on competitiveness first, over the last 2 years, I think we've had a 10 to 15% improvement in competitiveness in this country. And when I talk about competitiveness, people speak about it as if it's all about price and cost, but actually it's about value. And we look at it as a company in terms of the value we're getting from the economy, the skilled people, the flexibility of the labour force, etc. But I think we're going to need the same again over the next 2 years.
About 15%.
I would say 10 to 15% improvement, George, and I think we'll get that. I think we'll get that with some of the steps that have been taken in the budget. I mean, I would say if I look at our own consumer business, we would see our consumer prices have fallen off considerably. So there's great value there if you're a consumer buying technology. But that's just the consumer side, or the competitiveness side. On the job creation piece...
And just before you move on from that, Martin, this competitiveness that you're speaking about, is that to keep Hewlett Packard here? Or is it to expand Hewlett Packard here? I mean, is it a case that it's a necessary condition to get another 15% off the costs, never mind a sufficient condition to grow?
Well, we've got a huge footprint here, George, and we've been in this country for about 35 years at this stage. So really we spend most of our time actually looking at where we can bring new investments and new projects into the country. And just to sort of explain to you how that works is that in most multinationals, they look at every country globally and they categorise those as to whether they're high cost, medium cost and low cost investment locations. The magic trick is obviously to be categorised as a low-cost investment location, because that means that when the new projects come along, you're the guys who are getting effectively the first refusal on those. Ireland was a high-cost location for us 2 or 3 years ago. We're actually now a medium-cost location, and I guess what I'm saying is that if we achieve better competitiveness going forward, that then puts us right where we want to be when we're considering new investment projects. And I guess for me that's the holy grail. It's bringing new jobs and new businesses into this country.
And greater confidence about you staying and being here for another 35 years.
Well, I would say actually at the moment we're actually very positive about the economy here. We see that our own business has performed very well, and obviously that's a fundamental. It has performed well. We have created, as you know, over the last 12 or 18 months, we've invested and brought new jobs in. So we're actually quite positive. I mean, and as we all know, export figures are up in Ireland. So there are certain sectors of the economy here which are actually doing quite well. Now, I think that's probably not being acknowledged because of all the other challenges and that have to be faced. But nonetheless, they're doing well. Now, on the job creation side, I think that's the real challenge for Ireland going forward. We have a significant number of people on the live register, and I would be certainly advocating that as a minimum figure, we should be looking at taking 100,000 off the live register over the lifespan of the 4-year plan, so roughly 25,000 per annum. Now, what's it going to take to achieve that, George? I think that's the question, I suppose, that faces business leaders around this country.
Because some people think you force them off the live register by cutting what it is that they're paid for dole payments, and other people feel, look, you've got to encourage companies like your own to expand your employment. I presume that's the one you're going for. What do you need to do, or what needs to be done so that you can take on more workers?
Well, I think it's going to take a concerted effort from the corporate sector, which is where we are, to the SMB sector, because I think it's the collective efforts of those two sectors that will actually create the jobs together. Now, in the budget, bringing us back to where you started, at the SMB end, obviously there are some provisions in the budget.
Small and medium businesses.
The small to medium businesses, sorry. There's some provisions there to help them stimulate employment and actually hire more people. Some of those have to be, are not immediate provisions. They'll take 12 months, I think, before the EU approves them. So I don't think there's enough there. I think today what we need is employment subsidy for small businesses, and we need to have them hiring people from the live register immediately. At the corporate end, I think what you need to be doing is looking at the 600, 700, 800 multinationals, whether they're Irish multinationals or foreign direct multinationals based here, and looking at what's it going to take for them to hire 10, 15, 20 people off the live register next year, and what are the measures we'll need to have to encourage that? That, to me, is the real opportunity and what we need to focus on going forward.
It's funny, really, because some of those issues that you've raised have been discussed for the last couple of years, and we've just had the biggest budget ever, and some of them weren't covered. Ted Laverty, I'm just wondering about what you would think. You're from OnlineTradesmen.ie.
Yep.
The budget from the point of view of tradesmen, will it expand employment? Will it help business?
I mean, I don't want to be negative about the budget. Obviously, it's a lot of money to take out of the economy, etc. But for tradespeople in particular, you know, who are going through a fairly tough time at the moment anyway, it's there's a lot of negative points in there for them. One of the main things that we see is the increase in PRSI for self-employed, so going from 3 to 4%. So that's going to hit them in the pocket, with obviously the reduction in the tax bands as well. So they're going to be paying more tax, right? So we know that. But one of the things that kind of, you know, sticks in my craw a little bit is the increase in petrol and diesel. So the 4 cent increase in petrol and per litre, and the 2 cent increase in diesel. Now, we say, okay, look, maybe that was an obvious thing that had to be done, but I would actually counter that all business is going to be affected by that. Competitiveness is going to be affected by that across the line. Tradespeople are in their cars, they're going from site to site doing a lot of quotes these days, because people don't necessarily have the money to spend on getting a job done, so they find themselves going around pricing a lot of job that doesn't actually turn into fruition, so it affects them directly in their pocket. I was kind of just wondering to myself, well, you know, why couldn't they increase the amount of excise or VAT or duty on alcohol instead of petrol, because that's going to affect, you know, businesses in general.
I think it was because they were afraid that people would go back across the border and spend all their money.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know, they won't be able to afford to go across the border now because they can't afford the petrol.
Expensive to try.
But the other thing is, obviously, the VRT rate on commercial vehicles has gone up from 50 to 200. The big thing in the construction sector widely is the 1.8 billion decrease in capital expenditure as well.
Which is big. That's a lot of money, because that's spending for builders.
Well, I mean, basically, I think you can rule out, you know, if you're in that sector, you can rule out getting any public work, you know, for the next year.
One of the things, Ted, is when tradesmen are competing for jobs, as you say, going around from job to job with their expensively fueled cars or trucks or whatever it is that they're going around with and not getting the job, they're up against people in the black economy. And when you look at the budget here, I'm wondering whether or not you think it does or doesn't help in relation to the black economy. For instance, a person now on average wages is going to pay tax at the top rate of tax, effectively the top total rate of marginal tax, which means 52%. If they get any extra money into their pocket, if you're €3,000 below the average wage, you'll actually be paying effectively 52% of every extra income you get to the government. And I'm wondering, do you think that is a big fear in terms of promoting the black economy, and would that be a concern for your members? Well, for the people who sign up for online tradesmen?
Yeah, I mean, for online tradesmen, we deal with the kind of qualified tradespeople, the guys who are insured, the bona fide businesses, etc. And the biggest issue that they've had in 2010, even pre-budget, was the black economy, where they'd go to a job, they'd have a reasonable price that they'd put forward, and they'd get laughed at by the property owner. So, like, let's you know, call this what it is. This is actually fueled by the property owner, the black economy as well. Their willingness to actually do a cash job and not pay VAT or whatever. Okay. So, you know, it's always been there in the trade economy. It's always been a cash business. There's always been, I guess, a certain extent to the black economy. But now you're finding that, you know, guys who came from construction sites who aren't necessarily qualified to do a job just because they worked on a construction site under a foreman, okay, 100,000 of those have been let go in the country. They're now working. They had to go somewhere, so a lot of them are working in the domestic sector. So, and they're not qualified. They'll actually turn up on a site. They're drawing the dole in some instances, and they'll actually quote for, you know, it doesn't really matter what they earn. You know, we have instances where guys go out to quote on painting jobs, and the property owner's got a quote of €50 a day, including materials, from a guy who's obviously doing an Ixer.
Just get cash in their hand.
Yeah, you can't compete with that. They're obviously getting supplementary income from the dole, you know, so big issue. So it's a huge issue for tradespeople.
Okay. Well, Colm Buckley, in terms of the budget, one of the big tasks for it, because you're in recruitment, was to restore confidence. Do you think the budget did enough in terms of confidence?
George, I don't think anybody's happy with the budget for starters.
We weren't happy before it happened. So
no, but I think I think there's more certainty going forward, and that's very, very important. I mean, we're in the humanistic, so we're talking to companies all the time, and we're talking to our candidates all the time. There's massive candidate inertia out there. It almost parallels consumer confidence. They're not moving. There isn't that churn in the economy.
So people aren't willing to move jobs.
No, they're staying where they are.
Hold on to what you have, you hold.
Exactly.
That kind of thing.
Exactly, and a lot of the larger multinationals, there's more confidence now. They know what it is, and they can move on with their plans, their 3 to 5 year plans and whatnot. I think that companies they have more certainty now, as I say. In looking for new employees, they're looking for people that have a can-do attitude, that have the passion and the spirit and all of that. It's no longer the case that academic prowess and experience gets you the job. So I think overall my message is that there should be more confidence, there's more certainty going forward. And
so you think the budget was good in relation? We've moved on a further stage, and there's a 4-year plan. We're now 1 year almost in terms of policy changes into it. So we should be seeing some light towards the end of the tunnel. People should take that as a signal that things are going to get better.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the only thing that I sat up and listened to in relation to Mr. Lennon's speech was when he said that we need to have confidence, belief and faith going forward. You
liked that? Yeah,
I think that's very, very important. And, at the end of the day, an awful lot of companies, most companies in Ireland right now, no matter how strong the leadership is, no matter how good the product is, no matter how good they're doing, morale is down because costs have been cut, because salaries have been cut. And in bringing new people on board, they need passion, they need positivity, they need confidence. It's extremely important.
In your world now of recruitment, what's moving? Where is good at the moment post budget for people to start thinking about jobs?
Recruitment has been annihilated over the last 2 years. No matter what anybody says, I suppose we've focused on a lot of our client relationships in the fast-moving consumer goods and the drinks sector, as well as other areas. We've seen a massive reduction in, and I don't need to say it around this table, the SME sector. We're just not doing any business in the SME sector. So it's mainly with the larger indigenous brands and global brands.
So small and medium companies are really kind of caught in a vice grip at the moment. They can't do anything, which is very difficult though.
So I suppose, the stimulus factor for the SME sector, is a major concern and a challenge.